Well, welcome back to this episode of Did She Really Say That? I am your host, Katrina van Oudheusden, also known as Chef Katrina, and we are in a joyous conversation today in this episode. And why do I say that is because I have Julie joining us talking about movement and mindfulness. And now I think this is super, super important, especially for us women in business, because oftentimes we don't think to move. How many of you are sitting behind a desk? How many do you get up? How many of you are even aware of your surrounding half the time, or you're just going through your day, right? So this conversation is going to be an eye opener for you. This I know because I've talked with Julie previously, and what you're going to hear is really, it's exactly what you need. And I love what she's done to bring this into a more playful atmosphere. And you're going to
Yeah.
hear about this too. So who is this amazing individual? So she is the Move as One founder. She is a strategic management consultant. She's a mindfulness teacher and a whole systems facilitator who developed the Move as One system. Now, that is a brilliant name, by the way, Julie. Like, I love that on its own.
Yeah.
She helps leaders and teams co-create dynamic movement that is energizing, mutually aligned, and internally accountable and highly effective. So as a team, learning to move, learning to be mindful of each other, I think this is one of the biggest things we're missing from a lot of our corporate training and just even as an entrepreneur. Move as One aligns insight and purpose while co-creating a new dance of interconnection, resulting in remarkable enhanced performance. So think about from this perspective. What Julie's creating, what we're going to talk about, is that when you blend movement with mindfulness, it has an impact in performance and in your overall business. So if you're somebody that's looking to level up your leadership, level up your team, whether you're an entrepreneur with a small team or you're a corporation with a large team, this is something you want to do, right? So Julie has over 30 years of experience defining business strategies, driving growth and improving performance, and facilitating changes for major organizations and entrepreneurs. She's an accomplished professional ballroom dancer. We have that in common. So I'm excited. So Move as One was inspired by elements of successful leadership and teamwork. So alignment, engagement, and synergy. And I think when you talk about how people move on a dance floor,
Yeah.
that all comes together, right?
That's
She
right.
has more than 3 decades of
Yeah.
management consulting with extensive studies in Eastern practices. So she blends this all together. We're going to talk more about that. She's highly accredited. She's worked with amazing clients, the Mayo Healthcare. She has worked with GTS educational events, Lake Point Chiropractic, and this list goes on and on and on. And I know, dear Lord, we're going to get done through all this. But really, Julie, it is an absolute honor to have you here on our episode and really talking about this.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's been a long journey, and it has been this revealing process of what Move as One is. And so I named it became Move as One in 2000, and I feel like I've been learning from it ever since. It's like my prayer to move as one. And there's just been so many things that have come along to support me on that journey and to integrate. And so this synthesizing it all together into what we do in life, how we move, what we're talking about, what we're dreaming in, what we're co-creating with others. That's the important part of synthesizing it, so we don't have to take things apart, learn one piece and say, there, I've got it. That's where we get stuck. It's a movement, and we are a movement.
Yeah.
And we're a movement of nature. So yeah.
And I find it's interesting. So, when you talk about movement, a lot of people don't recognize, and I think especially as human beings, that movement is critical. It is actually what stimulates creativity. It's what, gets us out and about. So, like, so many times we're stuck behind the computer, and especially as women, when we start getting into the world of business, we're really in front of our monitors a lot. We're in front of all this digital technology.
Right.
Sometimes we just need to unplug. So,
Absolutely.
what you're talking about this development. So your background is in consulting, working with businesses and teams, and yet you felt pulled to create almost like this mindfulness element into it. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I was a consultant for Arthur Anderson, which was a big deal at one point. And it was these intense projects of pulling people together. And what I was seeing and learning was that people weren't always moving, changing
Mm,
their consciousness to expand. And no matter how many processes or different approaches we put into place, it just wouldn't maneuver.
hmm.
And at the same time, I was going through a personal growth experience, and I was thrown into these miracle of the breath trainings,
Oh, yes.
mindfulness training, and it completely changed my life. And I was so taken with it. I said to my parents, I said, I need to quit consulting and teach breathing. They were like, don't we all breathe? And it was like, we're not strategic, we're not conscious of it. And it's this
Mm,
powerful, strategic positioning of who we are. And then after learning the miracle of the breath, I got more involved in Qigong and more Eastern practices. And then I started to ballroom dance. And when I was dancing, I was incorporating the breath work, the qigong, the mindfulness, the awareness, and the synergy in my dances was just really profound. And
mm.
and I thought this is, and it was fun.
Yep.
And so it was like, how do I convey this even more into what I'm doing with leaders and teams? And that's when Move as One started to really get some form and some legs. Um, and I'll back it up. I was facilitating, and I was facilitating these long process change, procedures, and it became very clear to me it was just simple 5 phase process, and that's what became the moves process, the moves method. And so from there it started to take on a lot more form, as you'll see behind me. Um, and I could see it so clearly. And so when I would facilitate people, I'd see them make shifts. I'd see the change in consciousness. I'd see the integration, the wholeness, the unification, and but I couldn't convey it without having physical things.
Mm.
So I
Something
started
tangible to play, like to
to
make it a reality. Because sometimes we innately feel it, but we're not like we don't see the tangible. And we're in such a place where we have to feel, touch everything. So I can totally see that.
right, right, the somatics. It's really getting it in your body, embodying it,
Yeah.
and feeling that connection. And so that's what then I started to, well, teach dance as part of that process of how to integrate it in your body. What are the mindful moves needed? And then also get into writing a book about it, and then creating the game. And the game is really fascinating. I've had it for 10 years now, playing it in different situations, and it helps people move so fast. So and I call it year wise moves. And the point is that we all have been on a journey of wisdom. We all have that wisdom. We've had many, many introductions to many different modalities, many practices. And so this is an integration of a lot of different modalities and practices, and you pick cards based on, or it's an online digital program now, and it will stimulate your wisdom, and it stimulates the wisdom that you need at that time for whatever you're trying to change and make
So
change. Yeah,
I'm going to stop you right here because I'm going to dive more into this game also. And I want to walk everybody that's listening through it. So for ladies that are listening, I want you to kind of step back first. So some of you might have heard of breath work as if it's like something new. So
right.
Julie, when you did your breath work, how long ago was that?
Yeah, it was in 1995 and
Okay.
1996 that I got certified, and then I started to host day breath workshops in my house and would clear out all the furniture, bring people in, and really saw some shifts. But I realized I needed to integrate it
More.
into, yeah,
So, and I just want to pause there because I want to just point to this that as women, like there are modalities that are coming back, is what I would say, right? So I wanted to have Julie mention that she did this in the 90s because
yeah,
we think it's like something that's just happened after 2020. Like this is all like new.
right,
What's interesting is it's been around, right? And so
absolutely.
the first modality for you is learning to breathe.
Yes,
And that
yep,
is such an important piece. And I really want everybody, all the women that are listening and the few good men, um, to hear that it is super important to recognize your breath, right?
yes, yes.
So that was, I think, key number one in this journey, right? For you.
Yeah, and thank you for pausing on that because I always like to point out there's a healing triangle.
Hmm.
And the triangle is integrating that awareness of your breath with whatever the pain is and whatever the body is. So you see all that, you are a witness to that integration. Because when we do have something painful happen, we usually separate ourselves from our breath and our body.
True.
And that dissociation is what causes us to get into a cycle of dysregulation, and we find ourselves distracted a lot.
It's almost like, and I will say too, for as women, we tend to have some traumatic experiences that happen to us. And I think there are either ways of shame or things that we've dealt with culturally that we just kind of deal with. And I think every time something like that happens, we splinter ourselves.
Absolutely.
So what I like about what you're saying is that when we work with our breath, we start to center and pull ourselves back together. We start healing those splinters. And I think
Right.
that's an important piece in what we're going to dive into around your game, because what you have to understand is that what Julie has really done is she's looked at different modalities. And I think this is where women are brilliant, including Julie. I put her at the top for this because when we're able to pull different modalities and start weaving them together, we truly create something new. And that is why I was so excited to have Julie on this podcast, because I was like, you've literally brought an old, what seemingly seems new, but they're all like ancient modalities that
Right.
when instead of separating them, because I feel like so many times in our world, the men like to separate everything because they can sell it better,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Right.
As women, we start weaving it back together because it's not meant
Right.
to be separate. It's meant to be part of a whole process. So
Right.
I love, because I wanted to stop you because I think you talk about breath,
Yeah.
you talk about like working with teams and seeing those shifts, right? Then you talk about movement through ballroom dancing. So talk to me
Right.
about your journey with ballroom dancing. Like, did you decide
Right.
that one day you were just going to go start taking ballroom classes? Like, what was your first like time out on the dance floor? Like when you stepped
Right.
on your first practice. Let's start. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Oh, that's so great. I wanted to comment on some of those things of the integration and the ancient wisdom that this does come from, and applaud you for bringing that out because it is based on a lot of mindful Eastern wisdom that has been around. But how do we make it relevant for us now?
Yeah.
And that's a big piece. So so when I started to dance, and it was right when I started to go off on my own out of a consulting company into my own business, that I felt a little bit alone. I was alone on this journey. And by the way, this was right when mindfulness was just starting to blossom in our culture. Yoga centers were not as prevalent as they are now. They're all over the place. And so there was just this big shift. But I couldn't
Forefront.
wait to spread it. I couldn't wait to talk about it. And so anyway, ballroom dance, I was able to get into that body experience and breathe and move and connect and feel that synergy that happens with somebody. And I was, like I said, I had immediate experiences dancing with a professional dancer. He became a very good friend. He's still a very good friend. My first dance teacher, really bright, from Yale, and was able to convey a lot of what the dance structures were. And I was resistant to the structures. I
Mm,
didn't want anything to kind of impede or be told what to do. It's kind of that resistant, rebellious side of me. But I found that the more I cooperated with some of the communication styles that was happening in my body with another person's body, when I learned those structures, we could blossom together inside of it.
yeah.
And that became part of understanding how the body moves, how we move together, and understanding that breath work is moving through our whole system. And the more that we open it up, this is not just a here, where we have shallow breathing.
It's
We're
everything.
expressing it. And this
Yeah.
is why I love because the hands and the hand movement and expressing your arms, you can't just do that. You have to express it through your whole body. And the extension of that is an extension of your heart. And
Mm.
so that became this whole hand, heart, hips, integration of how do we integrate our whole body in a movement and recognize the connection and the presence that happens from that. So,
And I think it's really interesting. So, as a ballroom dancer myself, I resisted a lot with ballroom dancing. By the way, for those that are listening, I refused to twirl in the very beginning. I wouldn't put my back to a guy to save my life because I
yeah,
felt it was too girly. And I was like, I don't twirl. Like, I actually said that to my instructor, right? And it was interesting because that's on me. That was not feeling safe in my own body.
right,
It was a lot of my own
right.
limiting beliefs around
Yes,
myself. So I
yes,
always say this, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a demand for men to learn to dance.
yes,
And I think what I love about the ballroom dancing in general is that it is that subtle connection.
yeah,
If he moves his hand one way, it's a signal to you, and your ability
yes,
to recognize that
respond.
signal and express it through your body is something for the female. And it always is interesting when I worked with my dance partner too. He's like, I can't move unless you move,
Right, right,
right? And vice versa. He
right,
can't move unless I'm moving.
right.
So you learn that it is a choreography of
It's a
it seems like,
communication,
yeah, it seems like the male is leading,
but
well, in
it's
reality, a lot of the times the female has got to accept that
absolutely.
lead. And when
I
you learn that communication, I think it bleeds into relationships, it bleeds into business,
absolutely.
and you start to see the world around you vastly. I miss having like dancing be a mandatory skill that I think every human
Yeah.
being learn.
Well, and honestly, and what I'm trying to convey is you don't have to learn ballroom, Latin, and swing
Right.
to, but it's the movement with each other. So how do we move with each other? How do you learn? So one of the coaches that we had phenomenal coaching from some of the pros, and this one coach said, Julie, you're not opening up to your partner. And it
Mm,
was a minor tweak in my heart space, having to open up my chest so that I was available, which felt very vulnerable,
yeah.
because I was like having to open up and feel this connection with somebody I wasn't too comfortable with always, And yet, if I wasn't open, there was no movement that could be, it was a resistant movement. And so it wasn't singing. And then
Yeah.
the other thing about that lead follow, I call it, instead of lead follow, initiate and respond.
Mm,
And this whole, you initiate, you respond, and it comes back and forth. It's this liquid movement of who's leading and who's following. And,
right.
yeah, and it becomes that synergistic experience of almost like a greater force that comes in and moves you both.
Yeah.
So it's
And
a, it's
it's such a beautiful thing, and I think movement and dance in general, I really would love for society to learn to dance together. Like, I feel like we all sit there in our own little silos and just shake our bodies.
yes,
That is not like, I feel like that's great if you're trying to get some jitters out, but
uh,
ideally, being and learning to be held and respected, I think it's also a
yeah,
respect issue between men and women, and
that's right.
in relationships, you learn to respect space,
Yes.
understand where
Right.
you learn boundaries too. Women will always talk about we need to set more boundaries. Go learn
That's
ballroom
right.
dancing and you'll find
Yep.
out your boundaries really quickly.
That's right. And that's where
Opening.
the shaping, the how do you hold and how do you hold the shape. So when you start to get, I started to move into international dance styles, and that's even more refined.
Yep.
Everything is refined. Your heel and the way that it moves, is refined. And how, when you get that way, then you become even more sensitized to, does my partner know how to lead in those ways, because it is very respectful, it's
Yep.
very sensitive, it's this moving as one experience that's very delicate, and that's true of all of us in this world. How do we stay sensitive to the connections we have?
And you take that into the world of business, you take that into the world of entrepreneurship, you take that into the building your team. You have to understand how you're responding to one another. You have to understand how you move within the space, and then how are they responding. And I think part of that is both the nonverbal and the communication, which is what brings us into the game,
Right,
right?
right.
So
Yes.
we talk about, it's like there's the subtleties of learning that silent language. And I think as women, we are kind of got a leg up, especially if you had children, because
Yeah,
we've learned to listen to a cry and distinguish a cry from each
yeah,
other, right?
yeah, very
We've
much.
learned to sense things that aren't spoken. So there's a kind of an unfair advantage for us in that,
Yeah.
in some ways, right?
Yeah,
But when you started bringing in this, move as one, and you bring in this mindfulness,
yeah,
the game really becomes important, because in this drawing of a card and moving through it and communicating it,
right,
you really get a sense of understanding yourself and the people you're working with.
right, right. So much of our communication is, they say even up to 90% is nonverbal. So, how to have that presence and that connection that's nonverbal, but then also to use the communication in such a way that you're talking in healthy ways,
Yes.
not in ways that are condemning, or pointing fingers or judging outside, because that's not how we're going to make change. That's
Yeah.
the mindfulness. So how do I understand myself? How do I relate what's going on, or sense what's going on, and then convey it? And believe me, I don't do it well with my partner all the time either, because it
It's
just can
fine.
get really frustrating. But we do play the game. We're going through significant change right now, moving down to Colorado from Minnesota, and so we've been playing the game almost weekly, because we've got so much to convey to each other without doing it in a healthy way,
Yeah.
and being able to say these words that that come from your own heart, and that are not condemning to somebody,
Yeah.
but just saying, here's where I'm standing.
I think my favorite phrase is seek to understand as to be understood,
Right, right,
right?
yeah.
And I
Seven
think,
habits. Yep.
yeah, seek to understand as to be understood. And that's always kind of stuck with me. It's like there's always common ground for all of us.
Yeah, right.
And so let's talk about the creation of this game. So we have the idea, we want to bring mindfulness and movement, like, and you brought it into a board game, which is like, okay, like it's kind of walk us through that process as an entrepreneur. What was that development for you? I mean, did you know how to create games? Was that something new for you?
No, for me, and um the reason I call it a game, and I just played it last night, was because sometimes I'm trying to convey how, again, bring out your own wisdom. I don't want to have to, I don't, if I'm not always leading the breath or the movement, or let other people, and when they pick a card and it's related to something they're wanting to move, and it says, last night it was like, lead others in a breath meditation.
Mm,
And typically they won't do that. They'll think, I can't do that. They're going to leave it out for somebody else. But when they get picked the card and they're at this table, and they say, okay, let's stop and breathe for a moment, then they are much more embodied with that
mm,
experience. And that's the whole point. Or another is, and it can be like charades, but act out a person that you is a heroine to you or a hero to you, and how would you act that person's qualities. So embodying some of that, noticing the movements, or noticing, or another card is, if I had to be somebody, the opposite of who I am, what would that look like?
Mm.
And so that's where it comes into kind of a game of embodying some of these things and acting them out. And they're not all about within a group. It's definitely within yourself. You can stop, you can pause, you can draw something, you can pick a game, you can look around the room, you can identify a picture, something that's speaking to you. And these are, again, all different modalities that people have
How
taught.
did you come up with these cards? Was it like because what I'm hearing like in your development, this is a lot of like really um creative thinking around the of these cards. So like
Yeah.
how did you come up with the
Well,
types of cards for this?
I think I'm more of a generalist in that I love studying and I love
Mhm.
exploring. And so I've been on this journey. And the very first training I got at Arthur Anderson was Leadership 2000 with a psychologist, a man in Arizona who studied rocks. And he talked about the
Interesting.
how our creativity dies, from age 5 on, because we've been told no, 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 no so
Mm,
many times that it becomes, and however we're raised, as far as we have to play within these lines, or, our creativity is not stimulated or allowed or opened up. And so that was my first introduction into how do we expand our creativity. And just the whole leadership facilitation is all based on innovation and expanding our minds and thinking outside the box. And um, so I was interested, but because of my own personal journey of having trauma. I lost a baby, in my first marriage that was very traumatic. And that trauma was in my body until I started to breathe. And
mm.
once I started to breathe and unwind it, I found out all the somatic experiences that were so important for me to integrate into who I am. And I still am I'm what I call a sensitive empath. I can sense other people's pains, and it easily triggers something and I can feel it. And it's like, breathing through that one. Yeah. Anyway, I think we all share breath. We all share this collective experience. And so we are all triggered by each other in different ways. So that's part of the reason for the game as well, is to show that
So
take care of your inner ecosystem, and then you can take care of the larger ecosystem.
so the game behind you, I know it's right behind you, and I know
Yeah.
it's probably balancing there. There are 5, right?
Five,
What
the
do each of
moves.
those mean? So what are the 5 colors on that board?
Yeah, so I talk about it as the energy. The reason it's called Move as One system is it integrates the energy, the actions, and the awareness.
Okay.
And the energy comes from, and this came later, as I said, it was integrated through, more Eastern techniques. And one of them is the five element, East Chinese wisdom on the five element system, and how our nature is constantly teaching us how to co-create, and it teaches us how to be in balance. And so that whole system just lit me up, because I was like, that's what I've been teaching in the moves process.
Right.
And the moves are the actions. And so that's what came first. And then the awareness comes through as you start to work with this. So the elements are water feeds you water feeds the seeds grow up into trees. So the wood we use to make fire burns down and contributes back into the earth. And the earth, we ore our metal, and they direct our waterways. And so that whole cycle of the system is a balanced system. And and it keeps it in control too. So, for instance, if there's fire, you use water. So that's how you balance these opposing elements. And what's fascinating about that is that there's personalities. People have the personalities of these elements. And when they're overused and they're stuck in one element, they're not moving. They're not that movement of nature. So, how to learn to integrate all those elements and to keep them moving. And that's where the actions come in. So, the actions of the move process is mapping where you're at, be present and be clear, open to ideas, possibilities. This is where our bodies open up and we feel a lot more, and it can feel very watery, very expansive. And then from that place emerges some seedlings, seeds that want to grow up, and we emerge a vision. And that's that very organic process to getting clear on what do we need, what do we really want to create, what's our real purpose here. And so that's the wood. And then we visualize that, we get a clear direction, and then we move that into the fire and engage it. So the actions are map, open, vision, engage, and then we sustain it. And we sustain it in a practice. Um,
I love what you've created. Like I've
Thank you.
just because it is definitely the next level of thinking. Thank you for leading this conversation in both mindfulness and taking advantage of breath work before it really became something that we adopted a mass adoption of it, right?
Right.
And so you kind of are the pioneer. You're the pioneering woman behind the scenes. So all
Yeah,
of you
thank
listening, you're meeting a pioneer. Someone's broke through a lot of the things,
yeah,
and through her journey has really assimilated and brought it together in a way that you today can take advantage of it, right?
right.
So
That's right.
this game I know is an online version of this. I know that we talked about that. So let's
Right.
talk about there's two things I had a question on. So there's the game is online. When we draw the card, you talk about having an intention before you draw. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, yes. And it can be, it's fascinating. I've played it both ways. Somebody comes in with an intention or question or issue, and they really want to make some movement, and so they'll come in, and then it's very clear how to guide the questions. Whatever cards they pick, it's around that. But sometimes people will just come in and start to play the game. They're little, I don't know what to do, but the intention will start to develop.
Mm,
The clarity will start to develop. And I've also seen where somebody comes in with one idea of what they're trying to solve, and it's clearly a whole
something
different,
else.
yeah, thing.
So, out of the game, do you pick like one from each of the five
Yes,
areas? So
yes,
you are picking a card from each of the five areas,
right,
and then that is what you're at movement and mindfulness around.
right. And we do movement at each different phase to help with the transitions.
Okay.
So
Does this
there's
need
an
to be
integration.
guided by you, or can we just go online and do it ourselves? Like,
So the online game has the movement, has the cards, and it picks from, it's 150 different cards, so all those different combinations that can come about. And that's yeah, so people can self-pace themselves in doing it online. We are my operations person is we're going to start doing online game conversations that people can just tune in. They can get their own game set, and we'll play it as a group. They can contribute as they want, or they can be quiet and just reflect. So that's what's coming very soon.
I love this because I feel like it is a game. I will call it a game because of the fact that I think we need more play in our lives. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
sometimes
Yes.
we gotta have games that we can play. And it
That's
while
right.
it might have be very purposeful,
Right.
I
Right.
think that's where I love what you bring together because there's a
Yeah.
mindfulness, there's a purposefulness, and yet at the same time, I can see while playing this and having that intention, I could see laughter. I could see like an
Yes.
opening up. I could see like a
Yeah.
sense of getting to know the people around you or learning more
Yep.
about yourself. So I
Very
think
much.
when you take this on, whether even if so, if you're an entrepreneur that has like one other a person or you're doing this by yourself, I do invite you to go online, play the game, find somebody else, another female entrepreneur, somebody to play this game with, right?
Right,
If
right.
you have a small team and say you're like maybe
Yes,
3 or 5 of you, play this game together. I think,
right.
one of the things I often miss as women as we build businesses are those team building moments. So
Yes,
finding ways in which you can blend this really powerful mindfulness move as one movement
yeah,
and bring that to your team. You're going to learn a lot about each other and might even point to different strengths on your team
that's
that you
right.
weren't even aware of.
That's right. Yep, yep.
Because you've seen that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And they start to understand each other a lot more. So this is, when there's conflict, especially, and there's a, combination of what those personalities are, and you can start to see what the conflicts can be between different elements and people and strength and elements. It just helps to open up the understanding so
Mm,
much more, and then the movement happens. Then they all get on board. They're not resistant. There's a flow. There's a flow that starts to happen.
yeah. I think I truly believe your game needs to be in probably every corporate environment in the
I
world.
agree. So thank you. Yes. And
um,
I'm trying to, what I want to do is teach people who are native in their communities, so to be the change agent facilitators. So
yeah,
that's where it's going to, because I can't, and people won't accept, as a facilitator, people will look at you and they'll say, who are you? And it takes so much trust and time to build that relationship, where there's somebody already inside who's already brilliant and
yeah,
just needs to have some extra
the
tools
tool.
to support them through the
Yeah.
transformation.
And I think having these access to these tools, and you've made it so easy. And I know you're going to continue to evolve this game because we've
Yep.
talked about that too. Like cards might change. We might target different and, more kids,
Group
more this
energy.
section. Like there'll be an evolution of this. And really for those that are listening, my invite is to check it out for yourself, like experience. Don't just listen to
Right.
us talk about this and get to know Julie, get
Yeah.
to know who she is as a play the game, give feedback, because the other piece of that too is that helps Julie continue to evolve the game.
Yeah.
And we are all on this journey together. So I think that's the fun and play around this, like what you're
That's right.
creating.
Yeah, and a word on that play. I mean, when it is play and when it is fun, that's when it's easier to open your heart, have some joy, and connect with others. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great.
You're good. Yeah, like I said, this is brilliant. I am so grateful for your
That's
experiences that have led to the creation of this, the weaving and the blending of different modalities, but bringing it together as one, as a tangible tool that we can take in instead of just being this arbitrary mindfulness movement or just something like you're really bringing this into the tangible. So you are the creator.
yeah. Thank you so
And a
much.
powerful creator at that. So thank you for your gifts and what you're sharing with us because this is really, truly brilliant.
And Katrina, I just absolutely love you. You get it. You're just I'm so grateful. It's been my life's work, so I appreciate the recognition.
Yeah, because it's brilliant inside of this. So for everyone that's listening as an audience, share this with another woman. Absolutely. Like invite somebody else to listen to this. Get your girlfriends together for a night, pop on that computer, play it together, and see what arises for you, right? One of the things I always say is women, we need that time with our girlfriends. We need time to reset for ourselves. Play
Yes,
this game and then take
right,
it back to if you have a spouse or a
right,
significant other, go play with them.
right, right,
Right?
right.
Like there's so many things. And then, yes, then there's the opportunity to say, well, how would you bring this into the work environment? How can I bring this into my communities? How can I? And that is for those that feel pulled to this might be something that resonates with you. So definitely, in the show notes down below, I will make sure all this information is in there for you. Now, there is something that's really interesting that at the time of this recording, ladies, it isn't yet available, but it's in the works. But we're talking about this because by the time you hear this, this is going to be at play. So there's a quiz that you're developing.
Right, right.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I've had this quiz for years, and finally we're putting it online. A very quick, fast way to figure out what's your dominant element. And
Ooh.
so when you find out what your dominant element is and who you are as an actor in your the movement, then you can start to navigate a little bit more and know when you get stuck in your dominant. For
Mm.
instance, I'm a very watery person. I feel the water. I feel the big picture, but I can get stuck in it and swirl, and the that can cause some wishy-washiness and not direction. So I've learned the hard way how to move things.
So is that part of, I guess, the astrology, like understanding your sign too? Is that kind of at play within this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's not directly related to astrology, and there's usually just 4 elements, but these are the
The
5
Chinese
different,
five.
yeah, Chinese 5. If you do anything in acupuncture, if you do anything in feng shui, there'll be some relatedness to that. But what I've done is taken it to what your actions are as a person in this world, how you act. Are you a cultivator? Are you an evaluator? Are you a generator? Are you a director? Or are you an engager? And you are an engager. So I love it.
Yes. Okay, so this is like, yeah. So again, there are levels of awareness as you play this game, is what I'm kind of even hearing. So it's like you'll come in at one level, you'll start to get a sense of yourself. You're going to start raising your vibration, your
Yes.
awareness of self and what you're playing at. So yeah,
Yes.
take the quiz, right?
Yeah.
Take the quiz, play the game,
Everything.
and see what
Yeah.
comes up for you. And if
Right.
anything, I am a demand that Julie eventually at some point, sometime in line, bring this game, like board game or card game, into reality beyond just the digital, because I'd be super curious what she creates around that.
Yeah.
It
Very
might be a
good.
collaboration for somebody that's listening. I don't
Yeah.
know, but I want to throw it out
Right.
there because I really think that this is something that is super critical in
Yeah.
our world, and the
Yeah.
fact that you can blend this into your life as a woman, as a business owner, as a friend,
Yeah.
as a mother, there are so
Right.
many elements to this. So honestly, Julie,
Yeah.
you're a gift to the world, and this what you've created is an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. And just on that, I've played it with my grandkids quite a bit, so it's been fun.
You play with your grandkids, you can play with your kids, get to know your kids a little better. I bet you
That's
figuring things out.
absolutely know what's in their hearts. Oh my goodness, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to know why you might be at odds with your child, it could be because you're two opposing signs, but you
Yes,
haven't recognized that
that's
yet.
right.
And so playing this game might give you some insight into your children and how to best communicate with them
Yeah,
in a way
very
that
good.
serves them, not necessarily just you.
Yeah, very well done. Yeah,
Oh, this is so brilliant. Well, I just
yeah.
want to say thank you for
Oh, thank
coming
you.
on and being on. Did she really say that? Because, ladies, if you were listening, there's a lot of moments I'm thinking, did she really say that? Did she really say that? Because it is a blend and weave of what she's created, and you can really tell the passion if you've heard it in her voice. So I'm
Yeah,
just going to reiterate again: connect, follow, learn, implement, move inside of
nice.
this.
Very
That's
nice.
all. All right. Well, Julia, this has been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Yes,
Stay tuned. There might be some crazy things that Julie and I do in the future that you'll probably want
yes.
to be a part of. I won't give you the details yet, but there might be something coming up in 2026 at the time of this that might actually be of interest to you. That's all I'm going to tease you with. You're welcome. Stay tuned. And thank you for
Wonderful.
joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.